Hi everyone, my name's Matt, I'm 29, I'm from Australia, and I'm just about to embark on a 12 to 18 month trip around the world. This video will cover off two key things: the steps I took to plan the trip and how I went about forming a travel budget and saving for full-time travel. If full-time travel is a dream of yours, I'm sure you'll find something in this video useful. Okay, so the first step in planning for full-time travel is to be crystal clear on figuring out your why. Why do you want to travel for an extended period of time? Once you've figured out the why, then you can work on the how. Take me for example. I was 10 years into a sport management career that I'd fallen out of love with. I was having those deep conversations in my own head about what am I doing with my life? What am I passionate about? What lights me up? And I kept coming back to travel. I want to travel and see as much of the world as possible. I knew deep down this was my why, and it probably started in 2015 on my first trip to Europe. Ever since then, every spare dollar, every spare bit of time I've had, I've used to go and see another part of the world. So this was my why, to travel and see the world as much as possible. But how was I going to do it? I started by asking myself, where do I want to go and how long do I want to go for? I feel like these two questions are crucial, even though they seem pretty simple. For some people, answers to these questions are quite simple. You might want to live and work in England for a year. Well, what do you need to work out for that? Save up a bit of money, work out where you're going to live, find a job, and book your flight. For me though, answering these questions is quite tricky. I don't really want to limit where I'm going to travel, and I don't really want to limit how long I want to travel for. So with that, I've focused on two things: the impact of time and the impact of money. Time in the sense that when you're gone for an extended period of time, you're potentially going to have to sacrifice a few things. Time with loved ones, potentially pausing your career, or maybe even leaving a house that you love. From a money standpoint, if you're gone for a year, you're potentially not going to be making money for a year. So that might pause or slow down another life goal like buying a house or funding a wedding, things like that. Also, unless you have a big nest egg that you can draw from to fund your travels, you're probably going to need to work out a way to make money while you travel. A quick search online and you'll find that there are countless articles saying that this is quite simple. You can teach English as a second language, you can work in a bar, if you're a trader you can find work anywhere. For me though, I'm coming at it a little bit differently. I want to forge a career in international development. And since planning this trip in March, I've also completed a Masters of International Community Development at Deakin University. The idea being that a lot of this work is done in remote parts of the world. So if I was to get involved, not only would I have a fulfilling career doing impactful work, I would also get to see and experience a lot of different places and cultures around the world. Just to recap, up until this point, you need to know your why, where you want to go and how long you want to go for, and understand the impact of time and money. Once you've answered these questions, you can begin the fun stuff like planning your itinerary and working out what activities you want to do. I'm not really going to touch on that too much, but what I'll share with you now is how I went about budgeting for this trip and how I went about saving for this trip. Okay, so money-wise, as I said, I've been planning this trip for about 2 years. So the strategies I'm about to show with you were really good for me because I had a long period of time to implement them. So I understand the two most important goals to be making sure that by the time you leave for the journey, you are debt-free. So making sure you have no credit cards, no personal loans, no car loans, so nothing you're going to have to be paying back while you go, and also when you come back being debt-free. And B, making sure that I have saved up enough money that if I can't find work or a way to get money coming in while I'm overseas, that the trip isn't going to be too impacted. I'm still going to be able to do most of the things that I want to be able to do. You might find yourself struggling to answer, well, how much money do I actually need to travel full-time for a year? The answer I find is in the research. I feel like in this day and age, working out how much things are going to cost you around the world is made so much easier with the abundance of travel blogs, TikToks, Instagram Reels, Google Flights. There's a million resources out there that working out how much things are going to cost you roughly is actually quite simple. You just need to put in the time and effort to do so. For me though, I mapped out a rough itinerary of where I think I might want to go on this journey, and I used Google Flights to work out how much the key flights in that time was going to cost me. I then worked out how much key activities I think I might want to do were going to cost me. So things like climbing Mount Kinabalu in Malaysia or trekking the Annapurna circuit in Nepal. Okay, so I've worked out how much I'm going to need to save roughly for travel costs, so flights, buses, trains, and so forth. and I've worked out how much big ticket items are going to cost me. Now I need to work out what my daily expenses are going to look like. Researching online and drawing from my personal experience while traveling, it's clear that there are places in the world that you can travel for a lot more cheap and places that are a lot more expensive. What I tried to do was I just mapped out sort of $50 to $60 as my daily average, and then times that by the days I plan to be away. So a year and a half. Now that you've done that, combine goal A, the amount of money it's going to cost you to be debt-free when you go, plus goal B, how much travel savings you're going to need, and that's your figure. That should be your travel money goal that you need to hit before you go on this journey. That's going to look different to everybody. Some people might even have that money already stashed in their savings and they can just pick it up and go. That's amazing. For me, unfortunately, I did not. And these are the 5 strategies I implemented to help me achieve this target. Number 1, I picked a departure date in the future and worked out how many pays or paychecks I'm going to receive between now and then. Then I divided my travel savings goal with the amount of pays between now and then to work out how much roughly I need to save each pay to hit this goal. Number 2, stop buying things you don't need and sell things you no longer need or no longer want. Aside from storing a few things in my mum's garage, I've literally downsized to a backpack. I haven't calculated the exact figure of how much money this has added to my travel savings, but by selling things on Facebook Marketplace or at the local Sunday market, I've literally added thousands of dollars to my travel kitty. I even sold my car. I figured walking, taking public transport, asking for lifts where required, just made a lot more financial sense than continuously spending money on petrol, car registrations, insurance, servicing and repairs, etc., etc. Number 3, if you have the time, start a side hustle. For me, this was in the form of a woodworking business. Starting humbly in my garage, I made a few things and listed them on Facebook Marketplace, got a few extra dollars, and by the time this trip has actually come around, it's grown into a genuine income source for me. Number 4, do things now that will benefit you in the future. This could be in the form of Qantas frequent flyer points, other forms of travel points, or as simple as trying not to touch your annual leave or long service leave at work. So by stockpiling Qantas points, you can bring down your travel costs in the future with things like cheaper hotels, cheaper hostels, cheaper transfers, cheaper flights, and by having a big leave balance, by the time you eventually resign from your position, you'll get a big payout that you can use to fund parts of your travel. Number 5, I have a few more savings hacks in my Instagram Reels section. Be sure to go and have a look. So they're the 5 strategies I used to save money for my trip. There were a couple things that almost caught me out though. First was my mobile plan. By the time my trip came around, I still had a year to go on the plan. So that cost me, I think, about $700 to pay out before I went. The second thing was travel vaccinations. When I went to the doctor, I had a list of about 10 that I needed to get. It felt like I was getting jabbed every second day. And that cost me almost $1,000. So be careful with that one. So that wraps up this video. I feel like I've only just scratched the surface on things I've done to prepare for this trip. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop a comment. Also, if you're in my position and you've planned for a similar trip and you had a different experience, feel free to also chuck a comment in. And please do subscribe and follow this journey.